What's good, good people, and welcome back to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. My name is BK, and this is the Silly Nerdy and Wordy Podcast, and this is episode 94, F1 the movie, my spoiler review. That is what I'll be getting into today. This Blu-ray. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody is doing very, very well. Glad to be back with you, doing another episode for you. Hope you all are doing well. And I'm going to be talking about this Formula One, the movie. Now, I did see this film back in June of 2025. However, June and the summer was just very busy, and I was not able to get an episode done for this film, and so I was going to have to wait. And so I'm doing it now as a part of my Blu-ray series. So this film, I really enjoyed it, and let's get into it right away. It is directed by Joseph Kosinski, and his previous projects, just a few, include Top Gun Maverick, which was back in 2022. And he also directed Tron Legacy, that was in 2010. The cast of this film includes Brad Pitt, Kerry Condon, Damson Idris, and Javier Bardem, just to name a few. Now, overall, when I saw this film back in June, I really enjoyed it. It was just really good. It's probably one of the best films I saw all of 2025, and that's including all the comic book and Marvel and DC stuff. This was just one that was just above everything else for me, in my opinion. So I already have a couple of shorts out on this by the time you see this full review, but I'm going to talk about this film, and I really love what they did with this film. And to me, the goal of this film, what the director and everybody in the crew, what they wanted to do was show and display what the life and what it is to be a Formula One racer, but also just telling it within a story of this film. And so they did that with the access that they got and the partnership with Formula One, which I talk about in a previous short. But one of the things that just stood out to me right away is the score of this film, which is the original score is done by Hans Zimmer, and the sound of the Formula One race cars. I really love the score of this film. I love what Hans and everyone involved did elevating this film, the arrangement of the score, all of the instruments involved, the way everything happened in terms of having the moments that need to be elevated and the slower moments and the big moments. And then also, probably just jumping right to the end, but the very last race, the championship race that took place in Abu Dhabi, at the end of that race, when it was just Brad Pitt's character, Sonny, as he's racing towards the finish. I love what the director and the editor, as well as the composer, did for a brief moment or a couple of moments. What they did was they drowned out all of the dialogue, all of the noise, and the sound of the Formula One race car, and it just took all of that out, and you don't hear anything. You just hear the score a little bit. I would like to mimic the sound, but I'm not going to try to do it. But if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And you just see the perspective of Sonny in the car looking as he's going and making these turns and into the straightaway. And it's just almost no sound, and you just see the car going. And that moment right there, as he described, Brad Pitt's character described earlier in the film to the Kerry Condon's character, to Kate, he said at that moment he's flying, the way he described it earlier in the film. I just really enjoyed what they did with that moment there. And it was also just great if you see it and you hear it in the theater, it just makes it even more better. So I do remember that. I really enjoyed that part of the film once it got down to the end. And again, just everything with the score and the music, just enjoyed it. And of course, getting the sounds of the Formula One race cars. Excellent job by everyone, as well as the director and the director of photography and everyone that's involved in terms of the positioning of the cameras on the Formula One race cars. Obviously, this director did Top Gun Maverick, and the way the cameras were positioned on those airplanes as well. He did the same thing for those airplanes, but doing it for a Formula One race car. So taking that tech and elevating it and developing even more and bringing that for the Formula One race car and getting the perspective of the race car driver. Really love how we were able to get that view of the camera in terms of the race car driver's perspective. Really, really loved what they did with that. I just enjoyed what they did. Now, the story of this film, pretty solid. I like what they did with the story in terms of Brad Pitt's character, Sonny, and not the typical thing when he gets visited by Javier Bardem's character, say, hey, I got this opportunity. He didn't really jump at it right away. You know, I like what they did in terms of the development of that, showing what Sonny was in his past with, you know, in his younger days, and then showing what he's doing currently in that 24-hour Daytona race. And then you see they meet and they're having breakfast there. And for him to not jump at the chance to go do the Formula One race right away, he thought about it, where he declined it initially. And then he asked the waitress, like, hey, what would you do? And then he said, well, it's not about the money. And then she says, well, what is it about? And then he thinks, and then he has his core reason to go and take that plane ticket and go to London. And then he starts the journey of this Formula One race, these 9 races that he's going to do. And he has his reason. It's not about the money. Of course, he does get paid. He is going to get paid. You know, the core reason of why you do things, for most people, a lot of people, it's not about the money, but you will get compensated. It is, as they say, you do what you're supposed to do and everything else will take care of itself. And so that's what I believe would happen in this film in the context of the story. And then he gets there and he has the test. And of course, you have that combative relationship in the beginning with Joshua Pierce and Sonny that continues for a while until the end of the second act into the third act of the film. So just loving that and just displaying the different aspects of Formula One, the actual Formula One racers that were involved and in this film, the owners, the team principals, so all of the different locations that they actually went to and filmed there. I just love what they did to get that real authenticity. And then also just the cast, the ensemble cast, I thought everybody did a really great job. No really standout moments. I thought just everyone played their role well. I think everyone was cast particularly well. And I love the journey of the story from the 9 races that we got to see and all the different locations. And every location had a different flavor in terms of the different racetracks. Just really, really loved what they did, getting the sound of the race cars, getting the cameras positioned the way they were positioned, as well as everything else. So this was just a great experience to see in the theater if you got a chance to see it back in June. But of course, if you have a really nice home theater and a nice sound bar, you'll get kind of recreate that experience in the theater to see this film. What else can I say about this film? I think I've said a lot about it in the other shorts that I have, but I'll just say briefly that the involvement of the sport of Formula One and the partnership was very key in getting things done and filmed, the way we were able to see things and the access that they got. Very important. And I'm glad that they were able to do that with the involvement with everyone involved. But overall, I just really, really love the story. I love the action, the racing, the character development, and just, yeah, I thought this was a excellent movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's one of these movies that I think I'll be rewatching for a long time. So I think that is going to be all I'm going to have to say for this film. Is very brief, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did you see this film back in June 2025? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? If you didn't enjoy it, let me know your reasons why you didn't enjoy it in the comments, and look out for some shorts that I'll have on this particular film, and subscribe to the channel here. Follow me on TikTok at NerdyPodcaster124. You can also follow the podcast. Just search for the Silly Nerdy and Wordy Podcast, and you can find it wherever you get your podcasts, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the different podcast platforms. I hope you got something out of this, and have a great rest of your day. And until next time, we will talk soon.